everybody. Welcome to ICC's Banter Blitz. I'm Grandmaster Joel Benjamin, and this is our little monthly get-together where I take on all comers in Blitz chess, and it should be fun. We're doing it slightly differently today. I'm doing streaming myself, so a little bit technically different from my point of view. But we'll be going in just a minute. I see that people are already lined up to play. Looks like we have a good crowd today, and it should be fun. So the first game will start in just a few minutes. It's a beautiful day in New Jersey. Springtime has finally arrived, and it's short sleeve and shorts weather here. Um, Great weather for baseball, going outside, having fun. So of course I'm going to be spending my morning cooped up in the chess room in the dungeon of my house in New Jersey. And okay, here we go. First game, Craig K. You are up. Let it fly. All right. So playing a Sicilian, but maybe I'll try a different one from usual. Um, Although my tournament games, I would say that maybe I play Sicilian, 20-30% of the time. I play a lot of different openings, of course. Most people who have followed my career kind of know that. So this game I'm playing is Skaveninga, and one reason for that is because nobody plays it anymore. So it's kind of like a relic. Nobody expects to see it. So something a little different. But Craig K has come firing out with the carries attack and is throwing his pawns forward. So he seems ready. A4. Is it really necessary to prevent B5? Because if you're throwing all your kingside pawns forward, doesn't that mean that you want to castle queenside? So if you're castling queenside, do you really want to uh, do you want to create that weakness with the pawn on A4, make it easier for me to open lines? Okay, knight D5, typical cheap threat. Looking at that F3 square for a fork. Uh, in the carries attack, and a lot of Sicilians in general, most club players I think would be inclined to just put their queen on D2 routinely, but there's also something to be said for putting it on E2, and that way knight E5 is not going to be much of an issue. Here I'm thinking about a little bit knight A5. Well, instead of thinking about it, why don't I just play it? Now I'm looking to come into C4, which is going to get me some bishops. So white has that formidable pawn storm going, but sometime he's going to have to put his king somewhere. So we'll see how that plays out. All right, for now, queen C7. Now if he attacks my knight, I have a little idea about that. I have a little idea. My idea is as follows. That. Going for a pin. So if he takes my knight, I take back with the D pawn. Knight is pinned against the queen, and I think that will get me the piece back. So I'm not sure that I gain that much by it rather than just moving right away. But because I kind of want to play bishop d7 and I can't, because then there would be no pin. But maybe I'll play b6 and bishop b7 because he can't really move his queen. He has kind of some issues in getting out of the way of that. Knight b5. Okay. I think it's kind of strange to do that before taking, I think, because now I'm going to get some extra options. I think I think this is working out well for me because now I don't even have to take right away. I can, oh, maybe he wants me to take on e4 and he wants to castle. Mm, okay, I'll chance that. It's attacking the rook in the corner. So I think there's only one option for white. Yeah, I think he needed to play castle's queenside. I think he's thrown off by having that pawn in a4, but that would at least pin my d pawn. Okay, but now my plan was d takes e5, which is kind of strong, but now I'm curious about this one because I believe that this I'm forking his rooks. This is a very unusual kind of fork. You know, two pieces on on two different diagonals emanating from the same square. It's very unusual fork. So many pieces on the board, but it looks to me like I'm getting one of those rooks. And well, then I'm going to be a rook up. So far so good. Off to a good start. And maybe he's going to try to counterattack something. Okay, he defended one of the rooks, so I'm going to snag this one with a Shrek. And maybe bring this knight back. No, let me get my queen out of danger first. Attack the rook and pin the bishop. Yeah, actually pinning the bishop is quite nice because now let me throw in this move because his bishop still can't attack my queen, so maybe I'm just gonna snag that knight. Okay, knight runs away, so offer trade, offer another trade. He can't really afford any trades now. Offer another trade because I'm up a rook, and still time is solid here. Trade. Okay, I'll take with a pawn. Queen is good too, but I'm going to open up my rook. Okay, let me just defend against that and defend against that and defend against that. And so he has to get his queen over there. That seems like a big job to manage that. In the meantime, the bishop on e8 is a pretty good defender. Okay, if rook goes to d4, I can certainly snap that. I've got a big material cushion here. Queen c1. Okay. We attack queen e5. Kind of attacks a few pieces. Should be good. Take the rook in the corner. And so far so good. Game 1 goes to the Grandmaster. Thank you, Craig K, for that interesting game. Yeah, that rook d8 kind of turned into my favor, but I think he should have castled queenside at some moment, even with that pawn on e5. Okay, English opening is all the rage these days at the Grandmaster level. So go for it here. Element 2711. I don't know the significance of that number. I don't know if it's a science thing because element makes me think science, but be that as it may. He's challenging, but this early f5, when you throw an early f5, you always have to be ready to counter d4. It seems like a slightly unusual moment to do it for black because my knight hasn't come out to f3, so when I want to play d4, if black wanted to close the center with e4, he would not be attacking the knight and winning a tempo there. So this has a bit of an awkward feel for black from my point of view. The pawn in f5 really doesn't want to be out there. Usually when you play f5 with e5 or e4 and f4 together, you usually want to keep that dynamic duo. You don't want to have to trade that e pawn, and the f pawn has no attacking value. Meanwhile, I'm threatening knight c7 and causing a concession. So black has had to move the king. I'm a little bit ahead in development. He's got some weaknesses. h6 has stopped knight g5, but now that's costing more time. And arguably the cure is worse than the disease if I play knight h4, but maybe I won't bother with that. Knight h4, knight e7. Yeah, well, don't know. Maybe I'll just develop, leave that threat of knight h4 in his head. Still not 100% sure I'm doing my bishop. Maybe I'll just fianchetto it with g3. Knight b4, a little bit of a lunge there. Take bishop d4 is possible. Knight h4. Let's go knight h4. I'm certainly not too concerned about him taking the a2 pawn. Knight g6 is even playable here, but I'm definitely not messing around with that move. Rook takes, no, pawn takes. And to defend the f5 pawn and the g6 squared, you have to play knight e7, and then I think d6 will blow up his structure. I think that will be good. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. I'll be a pawn down for the moment, but I think it's worth it. But of course he's gonna get his pieces out in a couple of moves. So bishop d4. Bishop d4 may not be worth it because he's just going to, he's just going to play rook g8. So I'll just develop this. That could be handy because if he tries to fianchetto, I can take the long diagonal first. Yep. Okay, bishop d4. I don't think bishop d4 does anything, so I'll just come back. So I'm playing a pawn down, but I think I can pretty much get a pawn back anytime I want. Still, though, he's hanging in there. Position looks ugly to me, but not that bad. Well, maybe it is that bad, but he's hanging in there. That's for sure. So, okay, bishop g2 for now, because I'm not sure which piece I want to move to d4. If I move the knight to d4, then I can't do the bishop. Ah, okay. I think I'm going to snag this pawn. Why not? Snag that pawn. And now, do I want to give this check? Where do I want his king? Maybe I'll just go back to d4. And then probably just defend my pawn, my a pawn. Could have gone to check. It's hard to say. Yeah, actually check and knight d4 was good. But okay, let me just defend the pawn for now. I don't really need to defend that pawn, but it doesn't hurt. Okay, now just a little prosaically. I could have brought the gun knight d4 and come in and taken on d6 with the knight, but the rook is pretty strong on d6. So I've got my rooks working. I'm now a pawn ahead with lots of advantages. Rook a6. Okay, I think I'll just bring the other rook to as a reinforcement there. Also could take, and well, really anything is good here. So now I think I'll just park this on b6, still radiating along that 6th rank. And also after knight d4, I'm going to be attacking that b7 pawn. So that's looking good. And he's also, his rook is tied to his knight. His knight moves h6 hangs. basically lots of weaknesses in the position for black. G4 attacking the knight, but the knight is happy to go to D4, so not helping that much, but not too much to suggest in this position. Okay, that attack doesn't bother me, and here I'm just going to grab that exchange and now up a lot of material. So yeah, that wouldn't be too difficult from there. So thank you, Element 2711. A kind of interesting game, but I think the F5 move was maybe one move too early. Okay, Nikon Widiarto. This is, I know he's kind of irregular, and every time I say I really don't know what to make of that name, but here we are. Bishop B5. Okay, this business. I'm actually in the books in this one because I had a game against Rousis, who was a specialist in this, and I did something here that was pretty good for black. So he played knight f3. He didn't do the bishop c4, which is kind of trendy. But after e6, if he takes knight e2, then queen g5 is a big hit. Now a6 is a timely move. This is an opening I know quite a bit a lot because I've played and analyzed it from the white side, so I know where the bodies are buried here. The problem with white not retreating the bishop to c4 in the last move is that after a6 he can't go to c4 a4 because he gets trapped. So usually people put the bishop on d3. Now why do they put the bishop on d3? Well, because now white doesn't really want to take on d4 because after pawn takes, knight can't go to e2. Now after bishop d3, sometimes black retreats the knight back to c6, and then white plays bishop e2. You see that little dance in Grandmaster games. There was a game between Grishuk and Gelfand a few years ago that went in that fashion, and then eventually Grishuk decided to do something else, and he won a nice game eventually. All right, I'm thinking I'm actually going to go for a fianchetto of this bishop. I don't really like putting on c5 so much. I think it might end up out of play there, and but I like reinforcing the pawn on d4. I think at the moment for he plays c3 in that position, but it's a position where I think that it's hard to actually put much pressure on d4. Like he can't really conquer that square. And I could play d5 if I want. So he's just I've won that d4 square. That in itself is not always that big a deal, but certainly it's a comfortable position for black. Probably some edge. Maybe not a big one, but because the bishop on d4 probably not as good as a knight there. All right, should I play d5? Yeah, I think I should play d5 because if I make that d file an open file, then that square should be more useful. D5. Okay, not letting me develop my bishop so easily. But now bishop e3 doesn't look like such a great idea for him. All right. E5. All right, this is slightly controversial because I'm locking out my bishop from retreating, but I guess I'm betting that there'll be more to be gained by e5 and opening up my bishop because I'm eyeing the bishop coming to e6 and hitting his a2 pawn. And I still have the possibility of driving away that bishop with queen h4, which is a move that I certainly might consider. Oh, also queen h4 could be a fork of the bishop on h6 and the pawn on e4. Although I don't know if I really want to grab the pawn like that with the queen. Now I'm looking at queen h4 because it forces him to take me. So he didn't want to see bishop e6 either, but I like, on the surface anyway, I like the looks of this queen h4. Because then he has to take and develop. So I never had to even develop that bishop. on c8. I just got him to take it, and now that develops my rook for me. Now I think I'm going to take that pawn on e4. Yeah. Uh, I have to be careful though, because he's got bishop g5 idea. Well, what are you going to do? I think I have to take this here. Yeah, that's the ugly side of my bishop being there. Is he has ideas to try to sneak in. Now maybe it's not that big a deal, but I'm really not super happy about that. I could play e3 and trade stuff, but it's not that great. Should I just trade the bishops? Maybe I'll just trade the bishops. I don't know. You know, I don't think that he really has any kind of mate here. Because I go e3 just takes with the bishop, and there's not necessarily anything to be gained by that. Uh-oh, I just noticed something that's not good for me. I just noticed something really not good for me. A little tactical thing I overlooked. No, no, okay. So if he takes bishop f6, I can come back with the queen. Okay. Because my plan was queen f4, but I don't have queen f4 because he would take and then take my bishop. All right, now I'd love to get in rook c2, like now. Oh, I could have been a little bit more careful about that. I was so anxious to do that, and then I blundered my bishop. All right, and now I'm running out of time too. So frustrating. Yeah, that's probably not a great move either. I should just admit that I lost a piece, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see if I can, I don't know, see if I can do what from this position. Not much I can do from this position. Just move fast, I guess. Ah, hate blundering. Yeah, there's not much you can do in a situation like this with the 2 second increment, right? Well, that was a little bit of a bobble there, letting me get f2. I think it shouldn't change anything, but well, it's not sure what he's doing here. I think I'm getting hanging around here. Seems like he's kind of moving around a bit randomly. Just trying to move as fast as possible, really. Okay. All right. I got to go forward. Fortunately, I kind of hit a brick wall there. Trying to scare him, but I got nothing. I got nothing. Okay. He's got me. Ugh. Hung my bishop. That was a shame. All I had to do is just be a little patient. Make Luft. I was just so anxious to get that rook to the seventh rank. Ah. All right. Well done. Okay, new game. Nej Medinov 1, 2, 3. Okay. I think I I think he wants a Latvian. This I this I remember. So give the people what they want, right? Okay, Queen F6. I think he was playing Queen E7 before, so he's going to try it this way. Fair enough. I remember Bishop E2 being one of the good ways to play against it. The idea being you prevent the queen from going to G6 because the bishop H5. So if you play Knight C3, they can go Queen G6. So this kind of gets them to put the queen to F7 instead. But maybe the Queen F6 is a new way of playing it for Nejmedinov 1, 2, 3. So he had a little think over that one. Okay, Knight C6. Hmm. Yeah, what should I do about that? Should I save that pawn? I don't really want that pawn on D5 so much, but okay, I'll push it so that I don't get it taken. I could also just play C3 because I doubt that there's much chance that with that knight on C6, I think he'd have a lot of trouble holding up his center. But it seems sort of principled to try to develop quickly. Now there's like a new idea that I could hit him with a bishop B5 check, and there would be no castling today. So I think that's a significant point that he Queen G6, but now yeah, bishop B5 check. That's a good start. He's got some bishop H3 ideas, but I'm going to get a moment to do something about that. Yeah. Okay. So, well, he's actually got some play there. So, uh, right. So I'll have to make some defensive moves, I guess. He can activate his pieces a little bit, but at some point, the fact that his king is rolling around in the middle should mean something. So rook E1 was really so that my bishop can retreat to F1. Yep. And so that should defend the king side pretty solidly. And then start bringing out my pieces. Okay, well that's going to bring out the queen. Just hitting it. Might have been better for him to do that last move. My bishop is already back there solidly defending. But what's he going to do about this E4 pawn? Well, I could play knight d2, but I kind of prefer to not block that. I think that I would be taking the pawn on e4, but I'm just going to put it here because if he plays bishop f3, then I have an idea to play bishop f4 to g3, blocking the blocking the g file, and then I would threaten to take the bishop. What's this? Looks like a pawn. Yeah. Okay, I take this pawn. I take this pawn. Bishop g4, but okay, that's defended, so I'm not too worried again. All right, knight g. Well, I'm just gonna take it. All right, he probably likes that he's opening the g file, but I think I can take care of that. I think he's going to be a little slow. Yeah, okay, we block that. Now I'm threatening to take the bishop. And next on the agenda, I think, is doubling rooks. I don't think I'm going to worry about that pawn on c2. Okay. Well, he talked me into it. I mean, I'm defended on the g file. This is the proverbial Fort Knox. Yeah. Okay. Here comes this guy. And who's zooming who here? White has the attack. I think rook takes g7 is coming next. His h4 move actually brought my pieces into attacking position. Rook e7 and then takes on f6. Yep. Could take with the queen. No, I think just take with the bishop. Not get fancy. Now, have I blundered anything this time? I don't think so. I think this looks good. It's always nice to have that bishop on f1. Just defends g2, defends back rank. So it looks like a split second black was getting some initiative against my king, but the bishop retreating to f1, I think, really wasn't enough. Black didn't have development with the king in the middle. Okay, so Latvian gambit goes down again, but Nezhmedinov 123 is stubborn about that, so I think that he wants that Latvian gambit, so I'll let him have it. Trend David 1407. Sorry, that's his rating is 1407. That's not part of his handle. But Trend David, all in caps for whatever reason. Oh, okay. D takes e6. That's not how White usually handles the Benoni, but I guess maybe he wants the position a little open, or perhaps to show everybody he knows the en passant rule. I guess it's not a move that you can really dismiss, but people don't play it very much for whatever reason. Is he contemplating queen h5 check? Nope. Okay, knight f6. Now I have to think about, am I concerned if he threatens to play e5? Is that something to be concerned about? So if I play bishop e7, e5, knight g4. I mean, I just don't want to play d6. I don't really want to play d5 either. But maybe d5 is okay, like a French. I think I'm going to play bishop e7. That's my first thought. Now, of course, I don't think I've ever actually played c5 and e5 in a tournament game, so it's not like a position that I get. But I never really thought about the en passant capture in that position. Maybe it's a little bit better in that position than in a traditional old Benoni with a knight and f6 and a pawn already on c4. Okay, so he defended the e5 pawn, but now my knight can come back to h6, so I don't have to worry about that. So in fact, I think that's what I will do. It just developed the bishop on the long diagonal. I mean, I could try to conquer that pawn in f5. Now I'm hoping to move that knight and maybe get some threats on f3. Okay, so he's blocking the long diagonal. Makes sense. Queen d3 coming maybe. You know what? I'm just gonna play. King h8. I'll just get out of the way of things for the moment. Actually, it doesn't look all that great for me. But, you know, it's kind of fun to play a little experimentally. Queen e2. You know what? I'm just gonna bring my knight back and come to f5. Put that in a good position. Not worry about it hanging out there on g4. My knight is still semi-pinned. e7 isn't guarded yet. I did have an idea in the beginning that I should play a6 and b5 instead of b6, and maybe it was worth that tempo to, because it kind of anticipated the knight coming d4, but not so much this way. All right, knight d4. H4. Well, I don't really know what h4 is about, but in the meantime, let me go here. Does he want h5? Okay. I'm not sure what that does. Knight d4 takes. Well, it shouldn't take so much time, should I? That is maybe a funny move, I don't know. I have a funny idea. h6. Okay, I'll just go here. I don't know if that's the right way or not. Rook c7 defends my bishop anyway. Okay. How should I take this back? You know, I think I'm even going to take it with the pawn. It looks funny, but just to stop his knight from coming to e4. I don't know if that makes much sense or not, but it's done. Knight h4. Okay, well, he's trying to get in somewhere, but in the meantime, he's letting me get in there, and I like that. Queen h5. Okay. Let me be a merchant here. Offer trade. No, not offer trade. I'm trading. Yeah, because his queen is trapped. Okay, so now I think the last couple moves have been good for me positionally. And feel good about maybe taking over. That's a good move, I think. Because I'll go bishop g5 and f4. Okay, well, that's an exchange sacrifice. Don't know if it was intended as such. I was thinking like knight g2 is going to win something, but of course it doesn't. So, I don't know. Alright. Anyway, not a lot of time on the clock now, so I'll have to go quick. But, did I just get e5? That would be a nice pawn to snag. And also I want to get my king out of there soon. Because right now I'm in a little bit of a mating net there. Yeah. Okay, king. Let's get my king into the middle. low on time here. It'd be nice to build that clock up. But he's thinking, that's welcome. 92, okay, he's decided to set a little cheap trap there. Um, so kill that knight. Knight d4. Okay, checkers. Pre-move takes. He resigned. Well, he could have played on because of the clock, both with low, but two exchanges. Okay, Trent David, that was a tough game. Took a while to get that under control. It was nicely centralized, but once I got that knight to d4, finally, I felt good. I was very patient up to that point. I didn't like it so much, but sometimes when I'm too anxious to do something, it backfires. All right, so who's next? A lot of people lined up to play, and thankful for that. Of course, there's a lot of big tournament action going on today. You've got the Norway tournament, and of course later on U.S. Championship continues. So lots of action going on in the world outside of here, but of course the Blitz games are more fun. So this is Gigo. I'm going to go with hard G's for that. So going with the floor Mykonos. All right, I'm going to try something I read in a book once. C takes d5 is kind of a hot move because d4 is supposed to be not as good, but of course 94 is the main answer. White can take a pawn with knight e4 and queen a4 check, but black does get compensation. It's not necessarily great. Bishop c5, yeah. The thing is, the position actually kind of stop to think, because I'm wondering if I can just castle here and maybe try to save a tempo. Yeah. It actually kind of resembles a Joko piano, strangely enough. Like after white plays d4, you can imagine Joko piano where you play c3 and d4, and the e pawns and the c pawns get exchanged in that fashion. So it's very similar to that, and I don't know what the difference might be in terms of the tempi, or if it's the same thing. Bishop b4. And this is why I castled last move, because now I'm not pinned, and I'm wondering, does it make any difference? Maybe. Well, let's see. Let's say I retreat to d3. Before both players castled, this move would not have been possible. So I'm trying to take on e4, but there are many ways to approach this for black. Of course, if he takes twice on c3, I have a bishop h7 trick. f5. Well, I've sort of kind of maneuvered myself to take this en passant. Yeah, so I think with my pieces constructed as they are, I think taking en passant makes the most sense. Sometimes white will just kind of leave the pawns, maybe like a 92 kind of thing, blockade the dark squares. I'm not not so thrilled about the possibility of bishop coming to g4. I like to pin. I don't like to get pinned so much. But h3 is a bit of a weakness. Well, I'm going to do it anyway because I don't try to stop that bishop. I mean, if a move like h3 is successful and his bishop doesn't get into the game, this is kind of a nice reward. But at the same time, touching those pawns on the king side is a little risky. Okay. Alright, I think I like this rook on e1 because I'm trying to keep his queen from getting active. So I thought queen e8 to h5 was an idea that was a little bothersome. On the downside, I'd pin my knight, self-pin my knight with rook e1, but I don't think that the bishop wants to stay on b4 forever. That's interesting. That's a6, kind of a waiting move. You wouldn't really expect a waiting move in this position, but that's a good sign from my point of view. That if he doesn't see anything stronger than that, then there's at least no obvious attacking continuation. Okay, queen d6. So now he develops the bishop. He didn't like knight b5. I'm not sure he would have really played knight b5 anyway. Maybe. Okay, so queen d6. Now I understand. Knight e5. Knight takes d4. Maybe I'll make him give up the bishop. Or maybe I'll just start with rook c1. Because I didn't really want the pawn coming to c3. This is not kind of hanging pawn type situation you want with pawn on d5. I think I'd rather have the rook. I'd rather have rook active on the c file if he's going to take it. Because he doesn't necessarily have to take it, but his bishop would be out of play. Rook takes. Actually, I haven't gotten around to it, but something like bishop b1 would make sense. Yeah, I wanted to play knight e5, and maybe I waited too long. I might have just waited too long on that. Alright. So we're going to have some maneuvering. Knight e4. I kind of whiffed on that one too. Oh, is he threatening rook takes f3 now? Maybe. I'm not sure about that because he's going to be pinned. His knight will be pinned, so I don't think so. Queen g6, kind of self-pin. Everybody's pinned. But at the same time, what do I do? Because I want to move the bishop. And I probably can't, but I want to. Alright, I'm just going to do it. What have I got? 19 seconds. Oh my goodness. What have I gotten myself into here, right? Wait, didn't I get any time back for that? What's going on here? Something's weird. Something's weird about the clock. Okay. It's a very weird position here. I don't know what's going on, but some complications. I'm going to see if I can profit here. Give him something to worry about. I think I should be getting some time back now. I played that fast in 2 seconds, didn't I? Oh, he found a good move there. He kept everything defended. Okay. Let me let fly here. Take that. Whoa. What happened there? Did he just give me a piece? That was weird. Oof. Wow, the end of the game was very weird. Queen takes g5. I think I wonder if that was even a mouse slip. Maybe he wanted to play queen h5. At which point, I'm not sure what was going to happen there. So that was a very tough game. Gigo. And now Abbas Child with the ball, the eagle as his logo there. Knight c3. Another quasi-closed Sicilian. Pre-move. King h1 is an interesting move because I just with my bishop fiend cat out. Is the king really better on h1 than on g1? You know, sometimes this is a thought that the king is just automatically safer when you put it in the corner, but you have to think about not just files but diagonal. So I don't think that I would spend a move to put the king from h1 g1 to h1. But I guess another part of it is that maybe he just wanted to clear the g1 square for his bishop. So I'm playing a system against the closed Sicilian, which I think is really very comfortable for black. e5. I think that's going to cost him. I think my position was kind of as well constituted to meet e5 as possible. I think I've got everything in the right place for it, so I think this is going to cost him a pawn. Now maybe I should have done the other move order because now I notice that h3 is possible, but I don't think it makes that much difference. See, this is where I'm very happy that I've got my bishop on b7. That was quite timely. All right, go ahead and take that pawn. Looks like a pretty clean extra pawn. Probably bishop g2 was slightly more accurate, putting the king there first. I just didn't think about it too much. I was really just thinking how I was going to take on e5. I'm not sure why I'd want to take with the bishop anyway, but all right, let's just keep developing. Because the way I did it, I allowed him to set up that he could get his queen on the long diagonal. d1. I don't want him to play d4 so much. Not so much. No. For real? Wow. Bishop takes c6 is about as suicidal a move I've ever seen. Wow. Wow. Okay. Thank you, Abbas Child. Well, I mean, it was a game until Bishop c6. That weak-long diagonal. You don't want to think too hard about giving up that bishop. I don't know if that was a mouse slip. Also, because Bishop d5 maybe he wanted to play. All right. Well, we'll have another game coming up in a second. All right. Who's next? All right. JAV, Jav. Interesting. Okay, some kind of hippopotamus approach. I've never really broken up when my opponent wants to do something like that. All right, I'm gonna go full center. What the heck? Just try to overwhelm him with the mountain of pawns. Hmm. I don't see any clocks moving. Oh, that was weird. It's like time was suspended. So anyway, Jav, I have to say that as a player who has occasionally essayed the hippopotamus formation myself, I do have a bit of admiration, I suppose, uh, that he's letting fly with it here. Hmm. I'm sensing that there are some technical problems. I'm sorry if that has something to do with me. Um, I'm not a big tech tech uh, tech expert. Problem with the hippopotamus is that when you do lash out with a move like c5, because your pieces are so pushed back, sometimes you could run into some problems, some holes. And I think that d6 wasn't sufficiently defended. Maybe he just castled before he tried to do c5. It would have been okay. Hmm. Hakasito. I think that one's going to sting a little bit because it looks like I'm getting a free bishop. Although it's tempting to play knight g5 and try to take on f7. Oh, I'm not going to get the chance. Okay, jab, very sporting resignation. Hmm. Well, if there's something I could do to fix the technical problems, I would do it. But the thing is, I'm not sure if there is anything I could do, or I certainly don't know what it would be. Um, from my end, it looks good. Okay, Syra. So it's a C pawn theme, if you haven't noticed already. C4 and C5. My first moves, except for Nejmadinov, I know likes that Latvian gambit. Has that little death wish there. So we're going with English, like all the big boys these days. Bishop e7, bishop b4 is rather more popular, but nothing wrong with this. Now this could transpose into a position that I sometimes get out of the French. This is a position you can get out of the French, what I call the French Panov attack, although it has nothing to do with Panov, but okay. Yeah, I had something very similar to this. I think maybe with the bishop on b4, I had something like this against Ostrovsky in chess league, and it didn't go all that great for me. But there he went bishop g4, so he got that pin action going. I don't think it's necessarily that big a deal just to put a knight on d5 because white can very often play around it. I'll do that first, and then maybe bishop g5. Really, the pinning. I feel like he's going to miss that bishop. But now I have a dilemma. Do I go to a3 or g5? I don't think a3 is actually going to do that much. You know, unless I had some immediate crash on f7. I think it's better just to develop. I got two bishops, and what am I going to do? Queen d6, taking advantage of me not playing bishop to a3. Well, if I take on f6, well, I take on f6, it probably wins a pawn. But I kind of don't want to do that. I mean, he has to take with the queen, I think. But then I give up all my bishops. Well, he's making it more tempting to do it. But, I think I'll just keep the pressure on because it's kind of hard to see what moves he's going to play. But what exactly is my plan going to be with my bishops? I have a little problem that I want to play c4, but I don't want to move my bishop off the diagonal either. a6. I'll just put that pawn on a5, make sure everything is frozen there. a7. Alright, I'm just gonna play to drive that knight away, I think. So he's been maneuvering for this move, clearly. I sort of wanted to get bishop g3 first, but maybe the knight can't really profit from going to f4 anyway. I think that queen on e3 is going to do something because I have ideas at d5 now. So, also, where does this knight go? Not there. Oops. Okay, I think Cyrus saw that coming because the game suddenly ends. He resigned. Okay, so yeah, knight takes g6 is winning the bishop on e6. But even if knight, let's say, went to h5, I think d5 is winning material anyway. So there, I think I could have won a pawn with bishop f6, but I think it was really much nicer for me just to leave things there, and eventually the black position kind of collapsed. I don't think it was a good idea to give up the dark squared bishop. All right, f8. Does he like bishops? All right. Well, he's having a bit of think. C3. All right. Hmm. Kopech system. Well, this is another one of those openings that I played myself, interestingly. I don't think I ever played it that way. I would always answer with E5, but I guess it's possible. Probably get some kind of isolated queen pawn position. White has moved the bishop an extra time. So let me try to take a little advantage by setting up this pin, because normally playing against the isolated pawn, you might want that bishop on E2. That's generally true in isolated pawn positions, unless that pinning move is not going to be a problem for some other reason. Okay, everybody castles. Bishop G5, yada yada yada. Develop something. He could try taking on F6 if he wants. Oh, wow. I completely whiffed on this idea. I did not see that coming at all. Uh, Queen coming to H7. I think I can allow it. I think I can allow it. It's a touch and go thing, though, because I mean his rooks are not connected, so I don't think that he's not going to mate me immediately on the E file. But well, he could change gears and take the pawn on D5, but whatever is his pleasure. Nejmedinov asked me about a rematch. Well, let's see if it's in the cards. I don't make the pairings. Knight D2, so he's gonna keep his options open. Yeah, okay. That was kind of clever because he kept Queen H7 and he kept Queen D5. And then with the knight already in D2, I didn't really want to allow Queen D5. So that means I have to allow the other one. Because his queen comes all the way into H7. I mean, if it comes all the way into H8, it'll have to come back again. Okay, now he's threatening mate. Now he's threatening to take the D pawn. So maybe I have to. Maybe I'm obliged to trade rooks here. Okay, so that's taken care of. I also have a sneaky threat of bishop F5. hmm All right, so now I've consolidated, and I think I have a pretty good isolated pawn position. My pieces are covering a lot of squares, and I think his piece is a little bit stuck. He doesn't have the blockade of the D pawn, which is often very useful in isolated pawn positions. But still, he's reasonably solid here. Um, I'll just come back and defend that pawn. Maybe I'll start throwing my kingside pawns ahead. G5 is not a totally crazy idea here because it's hard to defend F2. Then maybe he'll bring his bishop and queen back and try to mate me on that diagonal again. Okay, queen E2 probably not bad idea. But you know what? Let's go for it anyway. Because in the night, oops, too late. Too late, F8. Too anxious to trade stuff. Knight E5 would have been pretty bad as well because after the trade F2 would hang. Um, but you know that's why I like playing isolated pawn positions because very often you just get a lot of control of a lot of squares and that could lead to active game. But that was very interesting. You know, maybe F8 should have gone ahead and come in with the queen to H7, and then I would have probably had to drop my bishop back to E6 and think about what I was going to do about that queen, how to get it out of there. That might not have been a trivial matter. E6 and bishop B4. This is again another opponent playing a little bit in the style of me. You know, that's the kind of thing that I might do. So C6, that's not the kind of thing I might do because uh, when you trade off your dark squared bishop, you're not in a hurry to put all your pawns on light squares. You know, you want to put your pawns on dark squares and start blocking up the dark squared bishop, which, you know, when you give your dark squared bishop, your opponent's dark squared bishop can potentially become very strong. You want to try to make sure you can get that under control. So black is really going to have to watch those dark squares. I think there's a decent chance that something horrible is going to happen here for J. Russell 2. That's what happens when you weaken your dark squares. So F8 sent me a tell that he was, you know, because he was playing a GM, he was, you know, a little hesitant to come in with a queen. But I mean, I don't think it directly led to anything. But when he didn't ultimately didn't come in, I could block the diagonal with G6. It was easier. If the queen came in, then it would be harder to play G6. My H6 pawn would have been hanging. Meanwhile, I think I'm winning the queen here. I hate to spoil fun for J. Russell 2. Now, of course, I could take a rook here, but I have to. Oh, actually, Queen H4 does not trap the queen because the Queen H7 does win a piece. So I could win a piece, or I could win a rook in the corner. I could win a piece in two different ways. Um, I think you know what. I think I'll just take. I think I'll just take the queen, and then take not necessarily the rook because the rook will go, but just take here. It's a funny thing because the knight on E7 looks bad, but it's attacking the bishop on C8, and the bishop can't move away. So he has no chance to trap it. He's going to have to allow me to trade. Oh, he didn't defend the bishop. Well, he could have played knight A6. J. Russell 2. Sometimes a sop must be thrown to Cerberus, but does not have to be so many pieces. All right, another one for me. Okay, Nas, Nas. He's another familiar opponent. Bishop B5. Yes. Okay. Takes off my knight like it wasn't even there. Well, he's playing a lot of quick moves. He's got a lot of time. But I don't know. I'm not sure what the bishop is doing on B2 against the pawn on E5. Maybe I'll play for F5 here. I'll start with that. Now where do I want my bishop? I'm gonna go for e6, I think. Yeah, all right, I think f5. Let's let's roll with it. Bishop g5 was, Bishop g5 was also a very interesting move, which of course I didn't think about. I always find moves that I like on the rare occasions when I actually play a quick move in the opening. But Naz, he blitzed out those first few moves, so that got me thinking I should play quick. Uh, Bishop g5 again is possible. Um, and I'm going to do it. Yeah. Be careful. Oh, he saw the mate in one threat. But can I go for a trick here? Well, I could do that, couldn't I? Yeah, yeah. I can. I'm almost, I'm not sure that I really want to take this pawn because I could just play queen h6 and threaten rook f6. I'm maybe just being too smart for my own good, grabbing that. It was there. Sometimes you see something and it's better off that you don't. Although queen h6, knight f3, and maybe queen g5, he might be able to do something there, but yeah, what have I done? Did I just mess up there? Queen takes queen, and am I just going to get it trapped? That would serve me right for playing a combination that was really quite unnecessary. Uh, hmm. Feels like I'm actually losing some material here. All right. Mm-hmm. All right, I outsmarted myself. I really don't want to play knight bishop g4. Mm, mm. I'll just give up the exchange instead. Oh, is he's telling me I'm going to lose that piece? That would be not fair, right? That would really be not fair. Also, where did my time go? Sometimes you just got to say, "Hey, Joel, what are you doing? What are you doing? Not just not making any moves, right?" Well, that was not a great move. That was the move I was hoping for. But something like King G3 and Rook H1, I was pretty much toast. Well, yeah, now I'm still playing here, and maybe not a bad position even. So lucky me. Still have 29 seconds. Now it's getting interesting. I'm getting some initiative going. Oh, I didn't realize he was attacking my knight. I could have played knight d5. Oh, okay, now I'll play knight d5. That should win some. Oh, he resigned. Well, that's still kind of friendly resignation with the clocks running down. That was a tight game. If he hadn't blundered the pawn on f4, I was lost. It serves me right. Knight takes h3 was unnecessarily fancy. I just had a beautiful position without looking for that tactic. Okay, Percy, lay it on me. Yeah, I know. I know. Uh-huh. Queen takes d4. That's another opening that I've played a little bit in my career. I had one particularly notable game against Edward Gould, the game which I referred to as my Mona Lisa, where I made some sacrifices and got a nice little checkmating combination. Hmm. Some pretty standard kind of business here. I'm gonna wheel my knight around, I think, or should I try to attack c4? Yeah, I'll go for the wheel play. Shortstop covering third. It is baseball season, folks. All right, surely now I'm threatening the c4 pawn somehow. I don't think that defended it. That's the problem with the Maroczy bind. You have to make sure you protect both those pawns. But maybe Percy will manage. I thought he might try queen d5. Didn't look great, but to try to counterattack b7. Okay. All right. All right. I'll take it that way. Knight takes is in some ways more desirable, but I was just a little worried about knight d5. Probably it's nothing, but some white could get some tricks going. Try to chase knight from c4, take on c8, take on d5. Yeah. So now everything is pretty much defended. I think that's just kicking him out. I don't know if it's really a big deal to double those pawns, but it looks like I'm going to have that option if I want. And now the other knight comes. Pawn and position. So let's see, I lost that game early where I hung the piece. But did I manage to win the other ones? I think so. It feels like more than that, but where's my clean sweeps? They're things of the past. People are getting too smart. Yeah, just defend that knight for the moment. Knight takes e3, knight takes b2. I'll just generic keeping the pressure move. Bishop d4. I wasn't too worried about that. Yeah, I wasn't because I can take this one. Probably bishop c1 was better and maybe should have not been allowed. Two pawns now, and now maybe I'm thinking about rook c5, getting a little kingside attack, but it's not going to happen because I'm going to take more material now. Boom. Do the math. Yeah, but this guy's hanging. Okay. Another one for me. Still a lot of people lined up. Got a nice turnout today, that's for sure. Poly V. See, I never know. I see a cluster of letters. Sometimes it's hard to parse how you're supposed to break them up. Polyve. But he's not moving yet. At least as far as I can tell. You snooze, you lose. And so, somebody else. Cliff. 3-7-3-2-1. Tango, Niner, Bravo. You're up. He's almost every game. But I think that's the first one anybody just went d5. Play Queen's Gambit. If you play the Queen's Gambit, then e6 is a smart move to answer c4 with. Okay, Henning Shara Gambit. Oh, Lag City. Is that me? Am I doing that? I'm frozen. My board is frozen. Now it's unfrozen. Knight f6. I think that's a novelty. Isn't it? Black's supposed to just take on d5. Now this pawn feels pretty free. looks like a free pawn to me. Crisp and clean and no caffeine. Hmm. Crisp and clean and no caffeine. Nobody gets that one. Is that like an old 7 Up commercial? Yeah. I'm just too. Am I just too old? Is that it? Is everybody like 25 years old? I mean, I remember the 70s. Not nobody out there remembers those days. Okay, it's all right. Yeah, I don't know if I should castle or. You know what? I'm just gonna delay the decision for one move. I can't decide whether I should castle or play king e2 or keep my king in the center some way. Hmm. Um, Anybody wants to know, I do not decide who plays. I only play the games. That's all done by Lyon. So you don't need to ask me about a game because I have nothing to do with that. I'm happy to play whoever has a turn. Okay, so I just put off the whole decision about whether to castle or play king e2, and it seems to be working out pretty well. 124, take. I think I'll just move away. All right. Should I yummy down on b7? I think so. My rook on c1 is protected, so there's not really much of a chance of a sneak tactic. So I'll grab that pawn. I can always come back. King f8. Something's hanging, no? Something's hanging. You hang 'em, I bang 'em. Rook e7. Okay, so now just to not drop a piece somewhere. Hmm. Now I just get this bishop on d2 into the game. Cliff 37321 is he's been taking some punishment in this game, but he's still hanging in there. Okay, all right. I'll just trade that because my rook is defended, and just bring this back. I've got extra guys, and now I will castle because now I don't need my king in the center. Just play it, be safe. That's going to cost some more pieces. I'll just take. Won't get fancy here. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. It doesn't take that much time to make a queen. Okay. Score one for me. So, tired dad. Oh, feel like he's an old friend. I am a very tired dad myself. Hard to get enough sleep when you have the kids. Let's see. So, how to go with this one? Maybe I'll go for hedgehog. Now, grandmasters here play knight f3, but most club players have a certain kind of English formation in mind, but I think in that position d5 is kind of awkward to me. All right, I believe this is the last game. I am terribly sorry if anybody is waiting and didn't get their game. Not my fault. Um, but happy to see such a nice turnout. Really apologize for connection problems. I heard that it's not been good today. Doing the streaming from my computer, and it hasn't worked out all that great. But if I could fix it, I would. All right. Tempted to play d4, but I'm just gonna develop some pieces. Hmm. That's interesting timing there on that b3 move. I don't think it was really critical to try to develop the bishop. Better to get knight f3 and castles. That's a smart move, bishop d2, because otherwise the pin would cost a piece. Now, should I up on that or just let it go? Yeah, what the heck? Let's see where this leads. Queen c2. I really thought he was better off playing um, rook c1 there. This feels like a potential problem. Mm, for now I'm just going to castle. I don't know whether to go for d4 or knight e4, rook c8, bishop f5. There's a lot of juicy ideas here to try to take advantage of these pin issues. That does sort of defend things. All right, let's just go there. Let's chase that queen. Looks like Tired Dad is, he's kind of covering stuff, not going to lose any pieces, which is something, because he was in risk of that, but certainly have a very nice game wherever that queen goes. So one of my ideas is just to put my rook on e8 and oh, yeah, that's usually not a good moment for that kind of trade, because if I just recapture, then the queen is still attacked, and so now knight c2 is happening. But he could have just moved the queen. I mean, nothing. I didn't have any immediate move. I was just improving my bishop a little bit. Um, I don't know if this is another lag situation.